Tonight,
we went through hell.
the president's victory lap.
I've done things wrong in my life, I will admit, but this is what the end result is.
Reveling on being acquitted of all charges in the Senate impeachment trial. And the speaker hits back.
He's talking about things that he knows little about, faith and prayer.
After the president's speech at the National Prayer Breakfast.
Nor do I like people who say, I pray for you, when they know that that's not so.
This as the Democratic presidential candidates move on from the Iowa chaos to the New Hampshire primary. And
they make their profits off the backs of countless vulnerable and exploited and abused individuals.
A CBN News report on major corporations with ties to sex trafficking. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Not a news conference or a speech, but a White House celebration. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. President Trump taking a victory lap today in his first speech after being acquitted.
The president held a, quote, celebration this afternoon at the White House, calling BS on impeachment investigations against him. And in a remarkable moment, apologized to his family.
I want to apologize to my family for having them have to go through a phony, rotten deal.
CBN News White House correspondent Ben Kennedy is standing by at the North Lawn for more on the president's reaction.
But first, we begin with Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson and this morning's prayer breakfast, where the president also spoke. Abigail?
Well, Jenna, today marked the 68th National Prayer Breakfast, and President Trump also used the event to take thinly veiled swipes at some of his top political rivals, while issuing a rare other apology for not always loving his enemies, a big theme at today's breakfast.
They like people, and sometimes they hate people. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm trying to learn. It's not easy. It's not easy. When they impeach you for nothing, then you're supposed to like them. It's not easy, folks. I do my best.
But that was after the normally politics-free morning of prayer had already taken a partisan turn.
I don't like people who use their faith as justification for doing what they know is wrong. Nor do I like people who say, I pray for you, when they know that that's not so.
Later in the morning, the speaker fired back.
I don't know if the president understands about prayer or people who do pray, but we do pray. For the United States of America, I pray for him. I pray for President Bush, still President Obama, because it's a heavy responsibility. And I pray hard for him because he's so off the track of our Constitution, our values, our country, the air our children breathe, the water they drink, and the rest. He really needs our prayers. So he can say whatever he wants.
Congressman Jason Smith says with everything going on in Washington, the nation needs to come together and pray.
It's been a struggle the last several months, and we need to understand that it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, but we're all Americans.
And tell CBN News that on the Hill, they love their enemies more than people realize.
A lot of people think that Republicans and Democrats don't get along. But every Thursday morning when we're in session at 8 o'clock, we get together, Republicans and Democrats, for prayer and fellowship.
This year, Congressman Smith invited Pastor Andy Lembell from his district to attend.
It's very refreshing, because all you see on the news is the division, right? But it was very refreshing to see both parties on either side come together for prayer and for edification and to raising people up. It was very, very refreshing to see that.
Pastor Andy tells CBN News he was reading The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson when he was prompted to pray for God to amaze and perplex him.
I actually wrote those 2 prayers down in my prayer journal.
The next day, the congressman's office called and invited him to the breakfast.
I think that God did something uncontrollable and unpredictable in my life. It was pretty amazing. It's an honor that I can't imagine.
And Pastor Andy tells me no matter if you agree with President Trump's politics or not, he thinks all Christians need to unite in the biblical mandate to pray for our leaders. Back to you, John and Jenna.
Abigail Robertson on Capitol Hill, thank you. And with us now for more, Johnny Moore, a faith advisor to the Trump administration and member of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. Johnny, good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Good to be back.
So you're very familiar with the National Prayer Breakfast. How is this year different from years past?
Well, I mean, this year's prayer breakfast happened within 12 hours of the acquittal of the president for an impeachment, and it was the elephant in the room, and it made its way through the events of the morning. But when it was all said and done, the prayer breakfast is what it's always been, a unique moment in Washington, D.C., where, like it or not, you are in the room with people that are different than you from all around the world, and we prayed together and we worshiped together, and it was a memorable morning for lots of reasons.
Johnny, the breakfast is billed as nonpartisan. The headlines, though, are saying that the president railed against his political opponents this morning and gave a campaign-like speech. Is that a fair characterization?
No, I don't think it is at all. First of all, I had reasonable expectations. I mean, an impeachment is it's a political execution. Okay, I mean, this is like the caution tape is still around, the blood is still on the ground, and I don't think when Jesus said that we ought to forgive our enemies, I don't think he meant when the blood was still drying on the ground. I mean, this was a very traumatic experience that our country had, and so I don't blame the president for taking the moment to say what was on his mind. In terms of the tone of the speech, I mean, what you saw hundreds and hundreds of people that agreed with it, and even those who didn't agree with it. When it's all said and done, this is the beauty of America. You have these vibrant disagreements. You have Democrats and Republicans that they were in the same room, and our democracy is just fine. Our checks and balances worked, and it's going to be a great day tomorrow.
The keynote speaker, he focused on Jesus' admonition in Matthew 5 to love your enemies as a way to bring about national healing, Johnny. Is it fair to say it seemed like the president offered a different message, calling some people sick, even evil?
I think that the president's strength is that he's honest. This is a president that says what's on his mind. He doesn't, I've said here before, I mean, one of the things that evangelicals have liked the most about President Trump is that President Trump, unlike so many politicians, he's never tried to be someone that he isn't. And I actually, if President Trump would have all of a sudden behaved differently, this morning, I mean, I think it would have been a different story. Instead, he spoke his point of view. He said what was on his mind, and he took the speech back to what he's done. And I think that a lot of people who feel politically threatened by this president, I mean, the truth is he's running for re-election in 2020 as someone who has kept his promises. In the previous election, he was running as someone who was making promises. And this was a speech about religious freedom, about the dignity of every single life, including the life of every child. And that's what people will remember.
Real quickly, Johnny, the theme of this year's breakfast was on persecution. You travel the world. You wrote a book on the issue in The Martyr's Oath. Why is it so important to highlight the issue of persecution, especially in the Western world?
Because it's happening on a scale unprecedented around the world. And my only regret from the prayer breakfast is I wish that's an issue that we all can agree upon. And I wish everyone up there, including the keynote speaker, would have landed on that issue, because at this point in history, more people are being killed or abused or persecuted for their faith than any other thing. That's something Democrats and Republicans agree on. That's something Speaker Pelosi and the President of the United States agree on. It's something a lot of us work on every day of our lives.
Yeah, an important issue.
And the world is safer because of this administration's policies. It is unprecedented when it comes to religious freedom.
Johnny, it's always good to have you. We have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, just a few hours after the president's prayer breakfast, and less than 24 hours after the president's acquittal, President Trump addressed the nation from the White House.
And that's where CBN's Ben Kennedy joins us now. Ben, Mr. Trump and his supporters publicly saying one day later the acquittal is a full vindication and exoneration.
Yeah, John, Jenna, this address seemed more like a pep rally where President Trump said he did nothing wrong. For the better part of an hour, he took a bit of a victory lap, thanking his supporters. He then talked off the cuff, did not use a teleprompter, and let the country know exactly how he felt about the trial.
We went through hell.
Entering the East Room to applause, President Trump calling the event not a speech or news conference, but a celebration.
I've done things wrong in my life, I will admit. Not purposely, but I've done things wrong. But this is what the end result is.
Holding up a newspaper with the headline, "Acquitted across the top."
You can take that home, honey, maybe we'll frame it. It's the only good headline I've ever had in the Washington Post.
He then gave a shout out to his legal team and GOP lawmakers, calling them a great group of warriors.
Mitch McConnell, I want to tell you, you did a fantastic job.
But one vote denied Trump a unanimous not guilty verdict when Republican Senator Mitt Romney voted to convict on the first article of impeachment.
My promise before God to apply impartial justice required that I put my personal feelings and political biases aside. Were I to ignore the evidence that has been presented and disregard what I believe my oath and the Constitution demands of me for the sake of a partisan end, it would, I fear, expose my character to history's rebuke and the censure of my own conscience.
A historic vote that did not go unnoticed by President Trump.
Then one failed presidential candidate, and I call that half a vote because he actually voted for us on the other one. But we had one failed presidential candidate. That's the only half a vote we lost.
And the president doubled down on his earlier swipes at the National Prayer Breakfast.
I had Nancy Pelosi sitting 4 seats away, and I'm saying things that a lot of people wouldn't have said, but I meant everything.
Let us pray for...
Trump called the House Speaker a horrible person.
She may pray, but she prays for the opposite. But I doubt she prays at all.
This after Pelosi said the president is forever impeached, justifying her decision to tear up his State of the Union speech as a dignified act.
I tore up a manifesto of mistruths.
Deal with impeachment in the future, and if that happens, he said, quote, "We'll beat them again if we have to." John, Jenna?
All right, Ben Kennedy at the White House. Thanks, Ben. Well, joining us now for our Faith Nation political panel, Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics, and CBN chief political analyst David Brody. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, John.
So what a day. The president off prompter for an hour, riffing on everything from the Mueller investigation back to the 2016 election, fast forward to the 2018 midterms, and, of course, the impeachment. Your guys' thoughts on his speech at the White House today?
Tom, feel free.
Well, take it away.
If we saw Trump on script the other night with the State of the Union address, this was Trump obviously off script. As he said when he came out there, this wasn't a press conference, it was just a celebration. And it was him basically spiking the ball and you know, on the acquittal and thanking everybody in the room. And it was triumphal at times. It was funny at times, and it was also kind of sloppy at times. He was all over the place, and that's what we've kind of come to expect from Donald Trump when he's off prompter. But clearly, the White House and the mood in that room and the folks in that room who had all worked very hard to see him through this and to his acquittal, they were feeling very good.
Yeah. David, there seemed to be a pep in his step this afternoon.
Yeah, there was but it was a serious pep in his step. In other words, he's still frustrated. He's still angry. I don't think he's praying for his enemies quite yet. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he just isn't. And I knew when there wasn't a prompter in the room, that was the time to have a seat and buckle up because you never know what was going to happen. And look, you know, ultimately, this was as kind of Tom was saying, this Trump smorgasbord, and you never know what you're going to quite get. And I just thought it was interesting that he was talking about everything from Steve Scalise and the Congress. He started going into like the third inning of the congressional baseball shooting. I didn't know where he was going, so it was kind of a human Etch-a-Sketch.
You know, the National Prayer Breakfast speech this morning, very different tone that he had at that. Tom, were you surprised that he kind of went there and he called out some of his political opponents at the prayer breakfast?
No, I think your last guest, Johnny, was right about in terms of the tone that was offered by the first speaker, and then Trump not being willing to go along with the idea that you know, it was just about time to turn around and you know, love your enemies and give them a big hug after what he had just gone through. And that's a very human emotion. I can understand. I think most people can understand, given the way that the impeachment went and how unfairly he feels that he's been treated by the Democrats and the media over the last 3 years or so. And it's very much like Trump to, you know, other politicians would not have stood up there and said those things, would have been felt maybe compelled to go along with the program. That's not how Trump operates. It's not how he's ever operated. And quite frankly, it's why he's in the White House and why he's still standing.
And Tom, this comes on the heels of a very good week for the president. His approval rating is the highest it's ever been post-impeachment.
Yeah, and his approval rating on the economy is in the 60s now. He got some good jobs numbers the other day, payroll. I mean, this has been a great week quite frankly, it's been a great few months for Trump, but this week in particular, in terms of the news that he's getting, and you contrast that with what's been going on on the Democratic side, which has been a real struggle for them in Iowa.
Hold that thought, because that's what we're going to be talking about after the break. Well, thanks, gents. Coming up, the latest in the Democratic presidential campaign as the candidates head to New Hampshire in the wake of the continuing chaos in the Iowa caucuses.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN News Watch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN News Watch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today. Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening. My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
Welcome back to the Democratic race for the White House. All eyes now turning to New Hampshire, even as the final tally in Iowa is still up in the air.
After days-long vote-counting chaos in the caucuses, the final numbers are almost in. Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders are in a virtual dead heat with 97% of the vote counted. Former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Buttigieg has 26.2%. Senator Sanders has 26.1%. Both are far ahead of Senator Elizabeth Warren. She finished third with just 18%, and former Vice President Joe Biden was fourth with under 16%. On the campaign trail in New Hampshire, Biden acknowledged he did not do well.
I am not going to sugarcoat it. We took a gut punch in Iowa.
And Biden may be in trouble in New Hampshire, too, with polls showing Sanders and Buttigieg in the lead.
Welcome back. Tom, to you first. Is this do or die for Joe Biden?
I wouldn't say it's do or die, but he needs to bounce back. He needs to have a strong showing. I don't know that he has to win, but he has to do better than he did in Iowa. He finishes fourth in New Hampshire, and you can just feel his campaign crumbling. It's still a long time until South Carolina, his quote-unquote firewall, which is not until the 29th. That's 18 days, which is, you can just imagine the media narrative after just a couple of days with a poor performance in Iowa. So I think he has to. I think he has to do. Have a strong performance. And the problem is that he hasn't spent a lot of time in New Hampshire. He spent most of it in Iowa. He shifted a lot of money there. So he hasn't really put in the work there to have the ground game. So it's going to be a rough go for him if he does not have a strong finish.
David, interestingly, Bernie Sanders declared victory in Iowa today. Is that a bit premature?
Well, speaking about premature, Pete Buttigieg was claiming victory with 0.0% of the vote in. So go figure. I don't know. Look, let's just rub Iowa out of our minds. I mean, really, if you think about it, other than Buttigieg and Bernie don't want to rub it out of their minds because those are the two big tickets coming out of there. And so here we are in New Hampshire, and Buttigieg has closed the gap. In the latest poll, I believe, he's within 4 points of Bernie, and that's a big, impressive showing. We'll see about Buttigieg. He's their best candidate. He's got to go to South Carolina. As we've talked about, you need some African-American support. That's going to be, well, I don't know if it's going to be a struggle. Right now it's a struggle, but if he wins New Hampshire, coming out, absolutely. Watch out for South Carolina. I'm not going to say he's going to break through the roof on the African-American vote, but he'll do probably much better than he is now, for sure.
What about Michael Bloomberg? Where does he stand in the race right now?
Well, right. On one hand, things couldn't have gone better for Bloomberg in terms of the way Iowa and the Democrats have really mucked that up. That really justifies his decision to stay out of these early contests. On the other hand, he spent $200 million so far, and while he's risen in the national polls, if you look at, for example, the latest poll in California, he's at 4%. So he's not getting the lift, and that will get him nowhere near getting any sort of delegates. And so I think the jury's still out on Bloomberg's strategy. If Biden does crumble, it makes his ascension, more possible. But I still am not sure that Michael Bloomberg, septuagenarian billionaire from New York, who used to be a Republican, is the answer the Democrats are looking for.
All right, gentlemen, we're out of time. We're going to have to leave right there. Tom, David, thank you so much, and we'll be right back after the break.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Catholic Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Well, a new troubling report for some major tech giants tonight.
As CBN's Paul Strand shows us, this report shows ties between corporations like Amazon, Google, YouTube, and Netflix to porn producers and sex traffickers.
Pornography to you may be just a dirty little secret, but actually some of the biggest corporations in America have connections to the pornography industry. In an attempt to pull back the curtains and shame them, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation releases its Dirty Dozen list each year. The 2020 version includes such famous names as Amazon, Google, Visa, and the widely used Twitter.
Most of us are on it. Unfortunately, they allow pornography on their site, and they're actually, because of that, facilitating sex trafficking accounts and prostitution accounts, often using pornography to advertise for the sale of real people offline.
Don Hawkins, the center's vice president, says Visa processes the payments of mainstream porn websites.
A number of these pornography websites that Visa partners with have videos of sex-trafficked women and children and videos uploaded of documenting child sexual abuse.
Now, Visa does have a choice in this. Even just this last year, PayPal stopped processing money for the pornography industry. So we're calling on Visa to follow their example.
The group also blasts Wyndham Hotels and Resorts as the last national chain still offering on-demand hardcore porn to hotel guests. And that's not all.
If you go on Google or online and you Google the words prostitution in Wyndham, you'll find several hundred complaints and allegations and lawsuits and criminal prosecutions against Wyndham for allowing sex trafficking to happen on their premises involving children.
McNamara says Google hasn't stopped pedophiles creeping around on YouTube, and that's just one of many problems.
Google Images often features hardcore pornography on the first page of results, even for scientific or basic search terms.
Hawkins says such mainstream corporations should be ashamed because porn producers and sex traffickers do great evil.
They make their profits off the backs of countless vulnerable and exploited and abused individuals.
So as long as major corporations continue to have ties to the pornography industry, the Dirty Dozen list is going to keep coming out every year. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Finally tonight, the record holder for the longest single space flight by a woman returned to Earth today.
American astronaut Christina Koch touched down after completing a 328-day mission aboard the International Space Station.
Christina Koch, your record holder. She is out, thumbs up, and a huge smile.
After launching into space on March 14th last year, Koch orbited the Earth 5,248 times, completing the first all-female spacewalk and logging more than 40 hours outside the station.
Oh, welcome home. My goodness, quite a trip.
Big congratulations.
Yeah. That's going to do it for Faith Nation.
We'll see you tomorrow.